This is a formal notice of declaration and a testimony ordered by the Federal Justice Department of Belgium and by decision of Brussels Federal Court. A lack of truthfulness will face persecution out of perjury grounds to be enforced also in accordance with US federal law. So we have several things that have been going on, and specifically, we're going to state our pending cooperation with Deutsche Bank, and we're going to state our cooperation, which is yet to be finalized uh, by with the Palace of Justice of Ghent. You have seen us appear there, and we have work ongoing preliminary with the Federal Justice Department out of Belgium, represented by the Palace of Justice of Brussels. So, what we have been ongoing is we had a few weeks ago some issues in terms of supply of services. We have certain constraints around which we cannot, circumvent, and we have to live by them, and we're kind of subjugated by them, like Lloyd Blankfein says, the former CEO of Goldman Sachs, and it was becoming an issue. We had several complaints to us, personally by Exxon Mobil. Exxon Mobil. They were voiced by Rex Tillerson, former CEO and former former U.S. Secretary of State under the first Trump administration. So we were serious instantly, but there were certain restrictions tied to the supply of our work, especially related to the global energy space. And what we had to do is our restrictions were related to our rights. Our rights were not fully met because of certain restrictions in place that we could not, circumvent. And what happened is we saw the opportunity with the Palace of Justice out of Ghent to, execute some of these contracts we have with the, American financial firms like JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley and Bank of America and Wells Fargo, to execute in part on these agreements via a funnel created between New York and the Palace of Justice in Ghent. And we are in the process of finalizing these proceedings. So, what happened is we were granted our rights, like compensation and stuff like that. The issue is the complexity of the matter was these contracts could not have been executed in the terms of a Belgian legal jurisdiction anyway. So uh, we had to, do some maneuvering, and Justice Department in Belgium, represented by Palace of Justice of Ghent, had to do some maneuvering to execute on these contracts. And what happened, in fact, is we retrieved our rights, and in part, we would increase supply because of certain restrictions being lifted by funneling the execution of these contracts from New York to Ghent. So that happened, and what was also interesting, which is highly difficult to obtain, as David Solomon says, CEO of Goldman Sachs, is we anchored levels of cooperation between these departments of Belgian justice, which is insanely hard to obtain. So we transmitted out of these contractual compensation a substantial fee to the specific department, which is the Ghent Palace of Justice. And what we have been doing today is we're looking to expand our partnership with the federal entity, the Federal Justice Department, and we have preliminary talks. And they are looking to seek three drivers on which they can build, a certain revenue-bearing cooperation. So the first is a certain amount of services provided out of palaces of justice in Brussels, and gaining a certain amount of revenue. And Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley indicated instantly that they would give formal consent to cooperate, and these cooperations would have also revenue-bearing characteristics. So they indicated clearly to the federal court of Brussels, tasked with overseeing these proceedings, that they, were looking to contribute in a fair way, in an equitable way, and compensate these partners and these allies. So that is the second pillar. And I confirmed to the Brussels Palace of Justice, or the federal Justice Department, that within the next 3 years other opportunities would arise, and they would be ample too. So these talks are preliminary, and Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs especially say out of the partnership we see substantial opportunities, and we can source low threshold opportunities out of these Belgian financial firms or banks like BNP Paribas, Fortis, or KBC. So that is what has been ongoing in terms of our business with the federal uh, Justice Department in Belgium and their satellite organizations, to say, and that we can conclude on that topic, and we can assure all of our key partners and our key allies and everybody relying on our work, the output is going to be increased sustainably. So we can conclude for now on the topic, and Rax indicates it is not substantial enough. So people see more things on the table, and we're going to make sure everybody is content. And what we have going on also is talks with the Deutsche Bank out of Frankfurt. Deutsche Bank represented by their Brussels office, but we are engaging with Deutsche Bank out of Frankfurt. Deutsche Bank, the global financing conglomerate. We're engaging with them, and also Deutsche Bank Brussels, which is the head office of all of their activity in Brussels as well, in Belgium as well. And we are hoping to land within, let's just say, less than 7 weeks, and engage in meaningful conversation within 2 weeks. And we are going to do the same thing with the Alphabet. As you all know, Alphabet, the key holding above Google. So we're going to formalize these contracts as if they were in front of me in paper. They will be formalized, they will be finalized, and they will be executed on in totality for Google and Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank Corporation based in Frankfurt by December, and all of our rights will be executed in accordance to limitations that we all can accept, or we do not get to see them as an obstacle anymore.